But the murder of a California child by a man with a 20-year criminal history was a tipping point, and a wave of anger swept the country.
How could this maggot have slid through the system this many times without somebody saying, wait a minute, pal?
New sentencing laws, called 3 Strikes, You're Out, were seen as the answer to the repeat offender menace.
When you commit a third violent crime, you will be put away and put away for good. 3 strikes and you are out.
With crime near historic lows today, did the lock 'em up approach work, or did it get carried away?
From Retro Report, it's 3 Strikes and You're Out. After the tragic deaths of Diane Balasiotes and Polly Klaas, who were murdered by offenders released from prison with previous convictions, the state of Washington had decided that they must put an end to these crimes. The 3-strike law was created in 1993 based off of baseball, in which requires a person guilty of committing both a severe violent felony and 2 other previous convictions to serve a mandatory life sentence. The law increases punishments of those convicted of 2 or more crimes, and which can have a significant impact on the criminal defendant. However, the law has many weaknesses, including crowded prisons, high costs, and unfair punishments to nonviolent convictions. According to Mary Randolph, from Criminal Defense Lawyer, in some states, the 3rd strike does not have to be a serious or violent offense. For example, a man was sentenced to life imprisonment for stealing some videotapes from a grocery store, a crime that would normally be punished by a few months in jail. The law can grant someone too harsh of punishments for nonviolent crimes. If the defendant has been convicted of a nonviolent crime such as stealing, but has received 2 other previous convictions, with one being a felony, then that person will receive an increase in prison time, whether it be 25 years or life. Based on the article No Exit by Alex Hannaford from the Texas Observer, a man named Larry Dayres was sentenced to prison for 70 years for stealing a sandwich under the 3rd strike law. This was Larry's 3rd and final strike due to his previous convictions of burglary and theft. The security guard claims Larry had a knife, but there is no evidence nor witnesses. He will not be released until 2080, in which by then he will be 111 or dead. Larry was interviewed last week. Can you briefly explain how the stealing situation played out?
Basically, I ordered a sandwich at Whole Foods, and after I got my sandwich, I just walked out not paying for it. Well, I guess some security guard was watching me, and he approached me in the parking lot, but he claims I lunged at him with a knife, which is not true. I just got in my car, drove off until I got arrested for the whole thing about a month later.
Well, whether you lunged at him with a knife or not, how did you feel about the punishments you received for this action?
I felt that I was treated unfairly and that small of a crime does not deserve 70 years in prison. I am still angry about this whole 3 strikes and you're out law because I committed nonviolent crimes, but since that security guard claims I had a knife, I get thrown in here for the rest of my life for stealing a sandwich from Whole Foods, surrounded by others who have actually committed serious felonies. The whole thing just seems so absurd to me that 70 years is too harsh of a punishment for stealing a sandwich.
Larry's punishment has proven that the law is too strict and is costing the state billions of dollars to keep non-violent offenders in prison for life. With these strike laws, the minorities are being affected the most. As claimed by the Stanford Law School, statistics from the California Department of Corrections show that the law disproportionately affects minority populations and is against mentally ill and physically disabled defendants. The law also adds over $19 billion to the state's prison budget. The law is not equal to certain groups of people, and sentencing those with nonviolent felonies to jail does nothing for the public safety. People are convicted of nonviolent crimes, and because of their race and/or religion, they receive longer punishments and more are convicted. This law is making prisons crowded with minorities, which is causing high costs towards prisons. Despite the law's weaknesses, the law has its benefits of keeping offenders in jail and bringing peace to victims. Crystal Aries from Vitana states, the 3-strike law is a deterrent against crime, has declined felony arrests up to 20%, and is designed to keep these habitual offenders in prison so that society can experience greater safety. The third strike law most importantly puts criminals where they belong for a long time and manages to help decrease the rate of crime in public. The law brings victims peace knowing the offenders are locked up. However, the laws are causing prison overpopulation, which leads to spending millions of dollars to prisons. As stated by the California Innocence Project, numerous studies have shown the three strikes law does not serve as a deterrent to most potential reoffenders. The law has caused a tremendous increase in the size of California prison population, resulting in millions of dollars going to prisons instead of vital institutions like schools. It has also created a massive health burden. The law does nothing more than increase the cost of the justice system, overpopulate the prisons, and can wrongly convict innocent people. It serves as a health burden with the increasing costs of the prison population. It imposes life sentences for minor crimes, crowds prisons, and makes it difficult for nonviolent offenders to be granted parole. The law has not been drastically affecting the rate of crime and has been putting many in jail who have been wrongly convicted or given too harsh of punishments. Overall, the three-strike law is ineffective and destructive. Many people have received too harsh of punishments for nonviolent crimes. The law is disproportionate to minorities and needs to change for public safety. The third strike law needs to have some changes in its standards. Until next time on Retro Report.